We got top 10 most powerful stands. All right, let's learn more about these stands.
Stand, you ask? Well, it's right in front of you, known as Subscribe Requiem, and its ability is to reduce all non-subscribers of the New World Review to the status of subscribed, thus allowing you to receive regular JoJo content uploaded straight into
It's like Liam's second channel or something.
Try to fight it. This is inevitable. Hello and welcome to the New World Review, your source for everything anime and manga, and today it's JoJo time again, and for this video it is all about stands. Quite specifically, the most powerful stands in this ongoing epic. Now this is a video I've wanted to do for a while, but one that I've also been kind of hesitant to make, mostly because I'm not even sure if it's possible to objectively rank the more top tier stands of JoJo, because they all delve into some pretty insane territory, and there is almost always going to be an argument
go
for
to
any
One
stand
Piece
on this
YouTuber?
list to, I guess, defeat any other stand on the list. And furthermore, when you are talking about the most powerful, well, what does that even mean? Are we talking about raw attack force, area of effect, and ultimate defense, or any number of other strange and quirky factors? Basically, it's a very problematic statement to make because everyone is going to have
I don't know nothing about stands, bro.
and the scenarios in which they would perceive its use. And as such, we are going to go through a wide variety of primarily mind-blowing stands on the hunt for various ultimate powers. And I should say that due to the ever-escalating nature of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, there are going to be a lot of stands from Part 6 and beyond featured here today, and I will try to avoid as many blatant spoilers as possible when talking about them, but that is a pretty big ask in a couple of cases, so just be aware of potential spoilers. And one more thing, I will only be examining canon JoJo stands, so don't expect any Eyes of Heaven shenaniganry happening here today. But with that out of the way, let's begin, and our number 10 spot is going to be Haya from Steel Ball Run. Now this stand is problematic to say the least, because it should not actually be in the number 10 place. In my opinion, it should either be number 1 or very potentially
number 1
at all. However, due to the incredibly mysterious nature
Tell me the abilities.
I'm very much forced to place it here. So basically, Haya is a humanoid stand with an incredibly positive attitude that spends its time acting as a cheerleader for its user, Pokoloko, during the Steel Ball Run. However, in regards to that, Pokoloko just so happens to be by far the luckiest character in the history of all of media, and is seemingly invincible for 2 whole months of his life. And there is a lot of debate over this, but I personally do believe that this guaranteed success is a result of acquiring the Haya stand, because Pokoloko was evidently
these stands are introduced in part 3.
Quite an unlucky, or at least a normally lucky person.
I'll be prepared for that then.
And then after visiting alternate universe Anya, she guaranteed him that everything he does over the next 2 months will be successful. And of course, some days after that, Haya manifests, and Pokoloko begins experiencing godlike luck on every level imaginable. Whether it be catching a passing glance at a woman's breasts, or let's just say much more.
Luck is an underrated ass ability, bro.
Complex and far greater
godlike luck
in part 7. The problem is there is every chance that this is just Pokoloko's natural temporary luck at play, which would make Haya nothing but a glorified cheerleader and arguably one of the worst stands in the series. However, on the flip side, Haya could quite literally be the most powerful stand, granting its user infinite luck and complete invincibility for 2 whole months. Luck that I am certain no other stand on this list could solidly stack up against. But due to our tricky situation here, I'm going to have to leave Haya at number 10. Next up in 9th place, we have Death 13. Part 3 stand, eh? Well, yes, because even though we've seen a lot of madness in future JoJo stories, I still kind of find this one quite hard to match. I mean, really, in many ways, it does represent the ultimate in offensive capabilities, with the idea that you can just bypass reality entirely and brutally murder people in their sleep. And if its user hadn't been narratively required to not brutally murder the Stardust Crusaders, that is exactly what would have happened. The only real defense against Death 13 is to know its ability in advance, and then keep your own stand active upon falling asleep or losing consciousness.
If you don't, it's
GG's. Your
GG's.
victory would not be guaranteed, because in theory, Death 13 has complete control of the dream world, although it is itself quite frail. But that weakness is a—
So this can kill you in your sleep? Oh, bro, like, how you supposed to beat these stands?
Situation, especially since even if someone does manage to escape the dream the first time around, they will
especially
have
if you don't know nothing about it
occurred in said dream. And unlike similar stands like Man in the Mirror, there is no real way to avoid needing to sleep. It does happen eventually, and with a competent user, that is game over before you've even realized that you were playing a game. I suppose I should also say that the power is dependent on falling asleep around the user, which is specifically within 50 meters of the user, so you know an Olympic swimming pool's radius away, which is actually amazing. And yeah, you just can't stop the activation requirement, and unless you're anticipating this exact Freddy Krueger style situation, you will be in no position to defend yourself. So as early as this stand is, in my opinion, it is heavily overlooked in the series. For number 8, we are going to log Star Platinum, and now for the true hero of Part 3, the tried and tested Punch Ghost that has come to characterize JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Star Platinum is actually said to be so powerful that I don't even think Star Platinum itself can live up to its own reputation. It's basically a close-range superhuman who is said to be able to move in excess of the speed of light, as well as eventually developing a bonus ability to stop time briefly. So I have no doubt that Star Platinum is by far
OP already. Goddamn broken.
The most powerful brawling stand, but therein lies its greatest and arguably only weakness, being its close range. It's all good and well to be the ultimate being, but when you can't travel more than 2 meters away from your hat-wearing human,
at least this one got a weakness.
Slightly limiting. I mean, great, Star Platinum can exceed the speed of light, but JoJo certainly can't, and really his movement in this case is far more of an important factor. And yes, stopping time does help in that regard, but the end result is still that in order to effectively wield Star Platinum, it requires a very strict range-based condition. Regardless, this classic stand boy is still pure insanity, and under its ideal conditions, it may truly be unbeatable. However, the world of JoJo has provided us with stands that far transcend the peak power of the Punch Ghost world. One of which would be our number 7 contender, Bohemian Rhapsody. So skipping all the way to the realm of Stone Ocean now, here we have a stand that affects the entire world, and thus making it one of the longest ranges we're aware of.
Is that a cow
on this list,
what is
honestly,
that?
affecting the entire planet isn't such a grand achievement, and we'll see why.
There's not no
but
cow.
The insanity of Bohemian Rhapsody lies in the ability of fictional realization, because it just so happens to bring fictional characters depicted in images to life. So actually, you know what? In a weird way, if Bohemian Rhapsody did exist in real life, then it could bring its JoJo equivalent user to life and thus engage in a round of double Bohemian Rhapsody. Speaking of the user though, the real power of this stand has almost nothing to do with them, and each of the charming and often murderous characters brought to life draw their power directly from the passion of the artist who originally created them. And the only real immunity one can have is to not be familiar with said characters. But that is going to be highly unlikely to work in cases like, say, Mickey Mouse or Darth Vader, or any number of universally known beings. Furthermore, when a person meets a character, their soul just so happens to be bound to that character's role, and the soul and body of the victim now move as separate entities, and this is particularly troubling if the character you are bound to is destined for a particularly horrible fate, up to and including death. But really, the only reason why Bohemian Rhapsody isn't higher on this list is because it has a very simple defeat condition. You basically just create a character yourself who holds all of the innate power to simply dispel the stand. Super easy solution to what was looking like an impossible problem. Fascinatingly powerful stand though, but one that is inevitably going to be figured out. And the person who figured it out just so happens to be Weather Report, who holds number 6 spot on this list with his stand, which is also named Weather Report. And as many of you may be able to pick up on through the name, this stand allows its user to have literal complete control over the weather, which can range from basic things like rain or wind to more abstract notions of weather, such as a shower of poisonous frogs, because yes,
poisonous frogs.
And apparently it has some pretty incredible range as well.
I don't know why that feels so random.
At least up to 30 kilometers away.
It's a sheep? Okay.
Precisely than that. And that's crazy.
It looks nothing like a sheep
on this list, but the real reason why this is here today has more to do with its escalation ability known as heavy weather, which if you don't like snails, then I don't have a lot of good news for you with this one, because basically Weather Report creates a bunch of lovely rainbows which send subliminal messages to those who view them, making them think that they are snails. And that could be one big snail or a pile of smaller snails. It's kind of vague on how that works, but this stand is one of the stranger entries because it's not clear whether or not people are actually morphing into snails, or if this is a mass hallucination caused by quote-unquote subliminal messaging. What I can say is that Pucci was able to become immune to its effects by blinding himself, so it is likely the latter. But even if it is the latter, it is an almost literal godlike ability to control weather, coupled with mass snail hysteria, representing ludicrous levels of power.
That's broken, for sure broken.
Into the top 5 yet. And to do so, we're going to begin with Tusk Act 4, another wonderful entry from Steel Ball Run, and in fact it can strongly be argued that this is indeed the most powerful stand in the series from a certain perspective, because when invoked, it gives its user access to quite literally infinite energy, due to achieving the pinnacle of rotation energy. And this goes on to allow Tusk to perform pure madness by ignoring several natural laws, including that of gravity, as well as casually breaking through dimensional barriers, and even appearing to be capable of crossing over into stop time. So in many ways, like I said,
anytime I hear dimensional, with a character, I just know, yeah, he's broken, bro. You can't touch him.
You could make an argument that this
I
is
swear.
technically the most powerful stand due to access to, infinite power. But here's the thing, even if we were to accept that, there is a super important caveat to mention, which is how off the charts difficult it is to actually use Tusk Act 4. It can only be used by performing an infinite rotation with a perfect golden rectangle, and that is not easy to say the least. I mean, a certain Johnny Joestar makes it look pretty easy, but that is far from the truth of the matter. Still, another mind-bogglingly awesome stand to add to our ever-growing collection. Staying in the Steel Ball Run universe for now, and the next one is going to be the ever-notorious D4C. Full name, Dirty Deeds, Done Dirt Cheap. And the core of this stand's power is an ability to perform a dimensional hop, allowing its user, in this case the President of the United States, to visit any number of parallel dimensions, as well as travel items or even living beings back to his original plane, which is also known as the Root World, which very much results in an infinity of enemies, because if Valentine is ever hurt or killed, then D4C can simply be transferred to another dimension's Valentine, who takes over in his stead. But this, as with many stands, also has an escalated form known as D4C Love Train, which for all intents and purposes makes Valentine effectively invincible by providing him with this permanent pocket dimension to hide in, visually depicted as a beautiful gap of light. And should one attempt to hit Valentine with the Love Train active, then that energy/misfortune just passes through and is redirected elsewhere in the world to some very, very unfortunate individuals. The only real negative factor associated with D4C is that to properly attack, Valentine must leave his dimensional hidey hole, thus leaving him, or at least part of him, vulnerable. Briefly anyway. However, that's kind of it. So this stand grants you another set of godlike capabilities, and it is most certainly one of the most powerful that has ever been featured in JoJo's.
Wait, who y'all got? JoJo characters or DBZ characters? I literally forgot what you said, Precur. I think you have JoJo characters, right?
Bizarre Adventure. Edging closer to the top now, and we find ourselves with number 3, Made in Heaven, a stand so powerful that it managed to provide a narrative ending for our first JoJo universe. And as with many of the more powerful stands in the series, Made in Heaven's ability is directly linked to time. Specifically, it has the ability to speed up the flow of time, of the entire universe mind you, until eventually that universe reaches a vanishing point, after which a new universe will be born that takes all surviving organisms from the previous universe along with it. And those that don't survive will be reborn into an alternate universe form of themselves. Now, the purpose of this action does seem a bit odd out of context, because essentially what Made in Heaven is aiming to do is to craft a universe that is exactly the same as the previous universe. However, what this achieves in the process is giving every living organism from the original universe knowledge of their own future, and thus it's kind of a glorified mechanism of wanting humanity at large to feel at peace with their own destiny and living a life more or less free of fear and constant worry. I should also say that during the time acceleration, the stand's user, Enrico Pucci, is also a beneficiary of this, and as a result is capable of outspeeding seemingly any opponent. However, Pucci does still remain vulnerable to all of those.
These are not stands, these are gods, bro. These are gods.
Human conditions, so he remains as squishy as ever, which is why we are going to leave Made in Heaven right here in the number 3 spot. For number 2, we have a stand that really surprised me, being Green Grass of Home. And I can sense some contention in the comment section already regarding this bad boy, but I had completely forgotten about this one, and that is utterly crazy, because this stand does make its user, for all intents and purposes, truly invincible. The basic idea is derived from a motion paradox, so essentially the closer one tries to get to the user of the stand, being the green baby, the smaller they become, gradually having their size halved at regular intervals, and thus never actually being able to reach the stand user. It is literally impossible, and the same distance will always remain between the user and those pursuing them, which will result in people reaching a vanishing point, after which the corporeal form of the stand will make itself known and attack them. And of course, this size reduction does not just apply to living beings, but also objects, and as such, this stand does function as a form of ultimate defense. Unless the user themselves willingly allows it, there is no way to defeat this. Well, actually, that might not necessarily be true, because we do still need to examine our champion in the number 1 position, and that would be something you were probably all expecting, being Gold Experience Requiem. So going into this list, I knew that this was probably going to be number 1, but I was determined to find a stand more powerful than it, especially because part 6 and onwards have so much to offer in pure insanity, but in the end, I cannot deny JoJo's absolutely ridiculous stand. Gold Experience Requiem comes with an incredible slew of abilities thanks to its evolution, but the one we're going to focus on is obviously the ability to reset everything to 0. Basically, Gold Experience Requiem has the power to nullify anything that could possibly be thrown at it, even in cases like King Crimson, where the outcome of an action was fated to land in Diavola's favor, but that doesn't matter, because Gold Experience Requiem simply never allowed that reality to come to fruition. And things
Nah. No way, bro. Yo. Nah, JoJo characters are too broken, bro.
just get ever so much
Oh
worse.
my
If an individual
God.
happens to be killed
Reset
by Gold
everything
Experience
to
Requiem,
0?
as they will be repeatedly forced back to the point of 0 and caught in an eternity's worth of dying over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And despite what the Eyes of Heaven game would have you believe, this stand is unbeatable, and until Araki pulls out something even more world-shaking, to me, it will remain the most powerful stand in all of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But what do you guys think? Please do let me know in the comments down below,
my
and if you're keen
God.
for some more JoJo content, then please do go and check out some
Yo, these characters are too broken, bro. Yeah, I know the stands now.